Commission to order. Okay, I'll start it again. Good evening. My name is George O'Neill, Chair of the Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission. I'm calling the August 8th, 2023 meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission to order at 7 p.m. due to the, we're utilizing the Zoom platform. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I'm going to go over the details. It's recorded for both audio and visual content and is under the control of our Zoom host this evening, that is Amy. To ensure sound quality, and default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute, except when speaking or voting, and will generally be keeping video of themselves on throughout the meeting. I'll keep mine on throughout. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave their video on or off. However, they will be asked to turn on their video when speaking. Video is not available to you. You will not be precluded from speaking at the appropriate time and may listen to the meeting. During the meeting, everyone is asked to state their name each and every time they speak, because we want to know who you are and also, you know, what your role is. Please use the raise your hand feature to let me and the host know during the meeting that you would like to speak. Although depending on the size of the group, we can usually just ask you to speak, or you can speak. Members of the public may only speak during the portion of the agenda established for citizens' comment on agenda items, which there are two of those. There's one at the beginning and one at the end, so you have two opportunities. For individuals representing applicants, permittees, and violators listed in the agenda and their representatives. If you're speaking at this meeting and have a document to submit to the commission, which was not distributed in advance of the meeting with the rest of the materials, please indicate that you wish to submit the document. You will need to hold it up to the camera so that the commission and all members of the public may view it. In addition, you'll be required to email an electronic version of the document in PDF format. Take a photo and email it to the wetlands agent at wetlands@thompsonct.org. Marla will then include it in the permanent record of the commission. If a member of the public tries to communicate outside of the citizens' comments on the agenda items portion of the meeting, or if a person creates an audio or video disruption, they may be manually ejected by the Zoom host from the meeting upon my request. So it's now time to call the roll. Commissioner Chapin.
Present.
Commissioner Obert.
Present.
Commissioner Morano. Okay. Commissioner O'Neill, present. So we have a quorum, and we'll start with the first item of agenda. I'm going to share my screen so we can all look at this at the same time. So if you'll give me one moment, please. I just have to click it on here. All right. I hope this is the right one. I believe you should see the screen. Do you see it, Marla?
Yes, up, George.
All right. The Wetlands Commission. So we call to order. Are there on alternates? Action on minutes of previous meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or revisions to the minutes of July 11th, 2023? I'll scroll through it briefly.
Recording in
Go, please.
Okay, a little bit garbled, but I hear no objections, so the minutes will stand as read. The citizens' comments on agenda items. Any citizens would like to comment? I'm looking for hands. There are a very limited number of citizens participating. The weather is, it's summer. I get it. All right. Well, just as a reminder, there will be an opportunity later at the end of the meeting to comment. So hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Okay. Old applications. Let's make sure we've got the right one here. WAA 23001, Hane Yosef, 274 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 87, Block 95, Lot 39. Construct a 13-foot by 50-foot concrete pad for refrigeration freezer unit, stamped received 1/19/23, revised on 2/1/2023 to include construction of 2 second-floor decks, 1 50-foot by 13-foot over proposed concrete slab, and 1 18-foot by 36-foot along entire width of the south side of the building. Issued 7/12/2023. Legal notice published on 7/21/23, end of appeal period 8/5/23. So is there any action required at this item?
No,
Marla?
there was no appeal made, and so the decision is final.
All right, fine. Moving on to the next item, which I will try to advance. Jump to 10. How did that happen? Are these truncated?
No,
Oh,
it's,
that's the
no,
application. There it is.
that's the approval.
Got it. All right. Here's the next one. IWA 23014, Cheryl J. Popiak, 0 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 6B. Construct new single-family home, well and septic system with associated grading and wetland and upland review area. Stamped received on 6/28/23 to be statutorily received on 7/11/23. What further action do we have on this?
So I did receive a revised plan from David Held. He is on the Zoom meeting, and he can explain the changes and additions that he made to it, as well as the other documents that were submitted to complete the application
Okay.
information.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Mr. Held, would you like to introduce yourself and comment on behalf of your applicant?
Sure. My name is David Held. I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor with Provost and Rivero. And as Marla mentioned, I did revise the plans based on some comments she had after the last meeting. The only substantive change is the addition of the preliminary 100-year flood zone. And you'll see that called out. It's the dotted circle line there just off of the shoreline of the pond, right where your cursor just was, where it says wetlands. So all of our proposed work will be outside of that flood zone when it does become official, I believe in September. That is the existing 100-year flood zone. And the one further to the north there is the preliminary one, which will be official in September. Not that further
Here.
north.
Right
Where?
next to the lake, George, the beaded.
Oh,
the
I'm
beads.
sorry. Here we go, up here.
There you go. Yep.
Got it. All right. There's a lot of dots out here. I've got it now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yep. So all our proposed work is outside of that. We do have our NDDH approval for the septic system and the site plan, and that was included with the application package that was originally submitted. And as Marla noted, we did apply for a screening with the NDDB, and we got back a determination letter that we're not going to have any impact on threatened or endangered species. Again, to summarize, we do have a couple of small areas of wetland fill and disturbance. The first would be a relatively minor one on the westerly side of the site there. You can see it called out. I believe it's 57 square feet of wetland that will be filled in. That's a localized depression that was formed where there used to be an old tool shed or some sort of similar structure there that was since removed. And then a little bit of impact, a couple hundred square feet for the driveway turnaround and just installation of the well. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to do what I can to answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Held. Commissioners, do you have any questions? If you do, I see Commissioner Overt with his raising his hand. What would you have to say, Charlie?
Point of clarification, there's a dotted line that runs right through the proposed 2-bedroom. And it down on the lower part of the screen, it says appropriate flood zone A. So flood zone A wants to go right through the living room or what?
Correct. That's the flood zone for about another month, and then the flood zone moves out to essentially the shoreline of the pond.
And how will that impact the house and the development there when this time comes around next year? You say,
Charlie, Marla Butt speaking. Perhaps I can explain to you. When FEMA went through and reanalyzed all of the flood zones for the Quinnebog River, they made adjustments to those lines. So the line that goes through the bedroom is the old line based on old data. And on further investigation, when they did new data, the line moved northward towards the edge of the lake of Little Pond. So ultimately, if this application were to come in after September 7th, assuming that everything gets put in place with the flood damage prevention ordinance, the actual line would be up by the lake. So the house would no longer, nor the septic system, be within the designated 100-year floodplain, according to FEMA.
And it says in the small print there something about note was to A or 10. What did it say? It says, yeah, flood limit zone A per note number 10. I looked over at number on the next page and I couldn't find the reference on. A lot of 1 through 9s. Only found one number 10. And it's solid footing drainage outside pipe. So I don't know what.
So you should be looking at note number 10 and 11 on this sheet.
That would be page 12 of the Zoom documents, George.
The next page.
And
Okay,
it's up
No,
in the
this
right-hand
page that you're
side.
on right here.
it's 12.
Go to the right-hand side of the page.
Oh, down here. Okay, I'm sorry.
Correct. And those notes are simply the references to the two flood insurance rate maps.
Oh, I see. That was off my screen when I enlarged it enough to try to read what was there. Hold on a second. I bet you're right. Yes, okay. Clarified, so there won't be any question coming back later. Thank you.
Right. Not coincidentally, the revised flood zone follows a lot more closely with the delineated wetland soils, which is what you would expect too.
So for Marla Butts speaking, so on page 14 of the Zoom documents is the NDDH approval that was submitted, that was received on the application. And then on page 15 is the Natural Diversity Database response. And they seem to have no problem with what was going on at this site. So I don't see as though that there's a problem there. It was suggested at the last meeting that some commissioners might have wanted to see the site. And nobody contacted me ahead of. Charlie suggested today he thought he might have wanted to go to see it. So no one has seen it at this point in time. You still have another 30 days with which to render decision. So if you still want to go and take a look at the site, and if you have any concerns or questions, I can forward them on to the applicant's engineer or the applicant and get those answers by the next meeting, if that's what you want to do. If you don't feel the need to go out to the site, then you can just make a decision based upon the information in the file. I have no objection to the issuance of an approval on this application.
Great. Thank you, Marla. Commissioners, do we have any comments or questions from Diane or Fran? All right, I hear none. Do I have a motion to, if no one wants to see the site, does anyone want to see the site? Or Charlie, I see you raise your hand. You're muted, there you go.
Yes, that's my complication here. I did want to see it, and I thought that I had it scheduled for this morning. When my alarm went off, I called Marla and she said, no, I never completed the scheduling of it. Based on what I'm seeing, and especially as the floodplain comes in, I'm feeling, it's a tight squeeze, but it's within the guidelines. I'm not as anxious about it as I might have been.
All right then.
So
Do we have a
George?
motion then? Yes, go ahead, Marla.
I was just going to ask one question of David, because it's of value to the commission. What alternatives did you consider? Were there any alternatives? Are there any alternatives to the design of this property?
Unfortunately, if the property is to be developed in any way, shape, or form, there really aren't too many alternatives to what we proposed here. We've basically minimized the footprint of a house to, other than a tiny house on a trailer, essentially the minimum size you could have to have a livable sort of structure. It's a minimal size septic system, absolute smallest we can make it. We've shrunk the MLSS to the extent that we're allowed to per code by bringing in additional select septic fill And it's a 2-bedroom design, which is the smallest design the public health code allows for any structure, whether it's 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms. So, as Commissioner Aubert noted, it is a tight squeeze, but I think we've exhausted every opportunity to limit the disturbance to the extent that we can.
Okay.
And lastly, do you have a sequence of construction in here on the detail sheet?
We do. That was one of the other changes that was made at your request. Following the last meeting, we did add a more detailed construction sequence, and it's on this sheet that you've got right here, up towards the top left.
Am I in the
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
There it is,
yep,
right
right
here.
there, construction sequence, yes.
So since the wetlands flags aren't there, how will the applicant know where to install the silt fence? Will somebody be going out and flagging that?
Everything that would take place for construction would be field staked by a licensed surveyor. And the wetland flags actually are still out there. They were just flagged, I don't know, 14, 16 months ago, something like that. So
Okay. So there would be no excuse for going over the limits that were authorized.
no.
That's all I have.
Well,
Thank you,
there's always an
Marla.
excuse. There's not a good one.
Yeah.
All right, so commissioners, based on this discussion and the information presented by the applicant and their engineer, do we have a motion to approve this?
It's Commissioner Chapin. I'll make a motion to approve it if you give me the page that shows me
Let me
the,
go back to
num-
let me go back to
Yeah.
that page here. It's,
On page 11, I just found it.
let's go, hold on. Okay, there you go.
okay, I make a motion to approve IWA 23014, Cheryl J. Popiak, 0 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 6B, to construct a new single-family home, well and septic system with the associated grading in wetlands and upland review area.
And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So motion's made and seconded to approve this application. Any discussion?
My only discussion is that I'm hearing what Mr. Held said, hoping that his client and the contractors realize it's a tight squeeze, and some of us were a little less than enthusiastic about it. If they can stay in that footprint.
Thank you, Commissioner Obert. Any other discussion or comments, concerns? All right, hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the applicant for IWA 23014 is approved.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome. Thank you, everyone. On to the next item. Let me find it here. All right, number 3, new applications. WAA 23015, Michael Bandy, 10 Green Lane, Assessors Map 143, Block 17, Lot 232. Demolish existing house and construct new single-family home in 100-foot upland review area. Stamp received on 6/27/23, approved 7/19/22. I believe that's 23. Legal notice published on 7/28/23. End of appeal period 8/12/23. I recognize the scrivener's errors in that note. So what do we have on this, Marla?
Okay, so I issued a wetlands agent approval on July 19th that shows up on page 19 of the Zoom documents. It does have a special condition. So if you go to page 20, while I read the special condition, additional condition, you'll understand. The additional condition and beyond the general ones that are always in every application approval says 1, land disturbance in the 100-foot upland review area for aquatic reservoirs shall be limited to no more than 5 feet from the existing foundation for the installation of a new foundation, and only that which is minimally required for the installation of the new foundation drain. So you'll notice that there isn't any proposed grade changes on this property. That's because the applicant basically wants to put a cottage or a home exactly where the cottage that he's demolishing is. But he's going to have to replace the foundation. But he doesn't want to do any grading. He wants to keep the stone patio that shows there and also the stairs that are there. So the only thing that he needs to disturb really is just the little small portion to get the foundation, the footings for the foundation, because it doesn't have a basement. So they needed some space beyond that. And rather than making them go and change the drawing again, I added a special condition to limit the extent of land disturbance. The other area of concern was the foundation drain, which is on the right-hand side of the building that heads towards the lake, and you'll see a riprap apron identified. That was added at my request. I was concerned about the fact that that's a very steep embankment that goes down to Quadic Reservoir, and if concentrated flows go down that embankment, it could cause erosion. So there was a stabilization measure added so that should there be excessive water coming out, it should be dissipated by the riprap splash pad. So at this point in time, there's no action required by the commission. The appeal period is not up until Saturday. So I'm assuming there won't be one coming in, but just FYI. So that's why you have this on the agenda.
All right, so this is a inland wetlands agent approval.
Correct.
Any questions by commissioners or comments? Okay, let's move on to the next item then. Thank you very much, Miles, for that summary and those comments. The next item here we have is WAA 23016. Jason Jazerski, 61 Old Turnpike, Assessors Map 143, Block 17, Lot 232. Construct new single-family home with septic, driveway, and underground utilities in 100-foot upland review area. Stamped received on 7/19/23. Under review. So, can you give us a summary on this?
Yep. So you have the application form there that was submitted. And there's a locus map. This is located up near Route 197, between 197 and the Quinnebog River. And one of the concerns, if you go to page 27, that shows a site plan. I had asked for additional information on this plan. I wanted the 100, originally when it came in, there was no 100-year floodplain identified. And so they've added on not just the 100-year floodplain, but also that's existing, but also the new one that's going to go into effect in September. So the current one is the dash, two short dashes and one long dash that runs along next to the wetlands that are along the river. That's the 100-year floodplain as it currently exists. And the pink is what is the new 100-year floodplain. No, you got to go in a little farther.
Oh, there I am right there.
No, not that one. The next one in.
This one?
That one. That's it. That's the 100-year floodplain as it currently exists. So you see the driveway under the current 100-year floodplain is outside of the 100-year floodplain. But under the new one in 2000 that goes into effect in September, the pink line draws where the 100-year floodplain is. And you see a little portion of the driveway goes below the 100-year floodplain because the Army Corps of Engineers took all lands. And if you see in the over in the right-hand side of the drawing, there's a note that talks about what lands the Army Corps took. It said it took all property below elevation 347.
I'm looking in the wrong spot. Which,
right there.
Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is here. Okay, there it is. Yeah.
Okay. So they had identified what they were going to protect for flood purposes at that time, but the new flood mapping shows that his driveway might have a little bit that goes underwater during a 100-year flood based on the new data. So if you back out and enlarge shrink down the drawing, you will see that he's got a driveway that comes through. That is an actual existing roadway, access road, and it will need to be upgraded. And he wants to put in underground utilities to service the house. If you look at the house is really on an island, surrounded by wetlands and surrounded by floodplain. It's the only place on this property where you probably could build a house in the first place. So he's not proposing to do any filling of wetlands at all. So it's a wetlands agent approval. But I did ask them to submit to me the natural diversity database report from the DEEP. And I also asked for a sequence of construction. In response to that, J&D, Daniel Blanchette, submitted a request, and I got a report on the 2nd of August from DEEP, and there are at least 3 species of special concern. But for this project, it may not be as concerning as it would think, because a lot of the wetland, a lot of the species that were put on the natural diversity database maps have been placed there over time. You want to, I don't think I have the NDDB. Yes, I do. If you go to page 30 of the Zoom documents,
Got it.
that is the response that they gave. Okay, so the first species they have is a savanna sparrow. Now, the savanna sparrow is a grassland species. Now, if you know anything about the Army Corps of Engineers property, they have some chunks of land that are kept in open grassland, but that's closer to the dam. This area up here, to the aerial photography, has gotten overgrown with trees and shrubs. So it's not really grassland anymore, but it's identified on the mapping as being that. So I'm not counting the savanna sparrow as being of any significance in this particular area, but it does exist along the Quinnebog River nearby, where the grasslands and open lands are. The second species, if you go down to page 31 at the bottom, it's the bobolink. And the bobolink is another species of grassland species. Again, same situation with that I referenced regarding the savanna sparrow. Then the third species, which is found on page 33, is the wood turtle. Now, I have heard of the wood turtle existing along the French River, along Long Branch Brook, having actually had sightings along Long Branch Brook, not too far from Wager Road. So it's very possible that this property has, it could have a wood turtle population. Now, when you read the information that they provided with this, wood turtles can hibernate in the winter in the banks of the river, and then they can go up to 90 meters away from that. You can see that in the general ecology listing, 300 feet from the rivers, and they might travel 0.2 miles from the rivers at certain times. Now, if you go back to what his plan is, which we said was on page 27, the place that might have the most impact, I doubt that the house is going to have as much of an impact, but the driveway. Now, it's his proposal to put in underground utilities and to upgrade the driveway with gravel. He's not proposing to pave. And so I would not expect that to be a problem for a wood turtle. Now, this is minimal construction activities in the habitat. So I'm tending to believe at this point that this is an approvable application for wetlands agent approval. But I want to do a little more research because I just got that in the last couple of days. And finally, today, this afternoon, I received from Jason Jazurski a sequence of how he intends to build his property. He says first, he wants to install a bank ground gravel on the driveway. So he wants to upgrade the existing pathway first. That's on, you can see that on page 27. So he wants to upgrade the access way that currently exists to the high ground internal to the property. And then he says he wants to dig the foundation hole. Once he gets better access, he'll dig the foundation hole. And then he wants to dig the trench and the conduit for the utilities. And then the fourth would be to install the septic system. So I think that that's an acceptable sequence. I don't think he's going to need specific erosion and sediment controls along the driveway because it's very flat. There's almost no pitch, no grade. And he's even though he's got wetlands nearby, I don't expect there to be much capability of soil erosion there. course, if there's a flood that comes through, that's quite different, but it would have to exceed the 100-year return frequency storm, except where that low spot is in his driveway. And so there might be times during a large flood, a 100-year storm, there he might be isolated, might not be able to get out, or he may be able to drive through water. He's just got to be aware that that's a chance that he might be isolated. But at this juncture, it's my tendency, unless you guys have objections, to issue a wetlands agent approval for this application.
Okay,
within
thank you,
the
Marla,
week
for
or
that
so.
summary. Commissioner Obert, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, the low spot in the driveway is that break between the pink lines.
Yes,
Sort Okay, and that appears to be fairly close to the wetlands where George Marker is now. He's not planning to fill the low spot, or he's planning a ditch or a pipe
No,
underneath it?
the wetlands drain to the south. So they don't drain across to the river at that location. They
Okay.
drain in the opposite direction towards the Army Corps of Engineers property to the south and west, east, excuse me, south and west. So if you look at the, oh, interesting. Didn't notice there. Oh, yes, there is a north arrow. You see the north arrow? It's located right next to the words lot 11.
Yeah.
So the drainage of that wetland system heads south. So I don't think
Yeah.
that you will find that that's going to be a problem. That he does. And
Yeah.
I could always go out and check the site before I issue an approval to verify, because that is an existing wood road.
There it is.
And if you want to go out with me to do that, I'd be happy to take you with me
Yeah, when do you work next?
tomorrow. If not tomorrow,
Um,
then next week.
But I might be able to make it tomorrow afternoon, but probably.
All right, we'll plan on it next week then.
Please.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Commissioner Obert, for those observations. Any other commissioners have comments on this prospective application or this application? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which would be applications received after agenda was published. Marla, did you plan to share your?
Yes, I would like to screen share.
Give it a shot.
So I don't know how, we tried doing it last
It's
time.
easy. Hold on, let me unshare mine because I've got the control right now. Am I already past my? Okay, let me do this. Stop sharing.
Yep,
Okay, now at the bottom center of your screen, you should see a green
yep,
share screen button. You should be able to hit it.
yep.
And when you do that, they should pop up other windows, and the one that you want to share
Yep.
should be there.
So the new application is at 76 Jezersky Lane. What's in, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, you
When you
can.
select, you hit that button, then you've got to select the window that has the application, then hit share in the right hand corner.
Oh, okay, okay. Window, this one, that,
Find
and
that,
then
then hit
share.
share. There we go.
Okay.
You got it.
So this application
Just
is,
want to make it larger.
okay. This is an application that is for a declaratory ruling. And I believe the applicants are here in the meeting, but I will explain what it is. This is their house on Little Pond. And that house has a deck in the back. So they want to replace it because it's old and wood, and they want to put it with a material that's a composite. So they have submitted an application for use and use incidental to the maintenance and enjoyment of property because they're within 100 feet of the lake. But they're not proposing to do any really earth moving work. They're doing construction. They're going to demolish the deck, and I'll show you a photograph of that's their house. And there's their deck. See the deck and the stairs. And then they have these posts that support the deck. So they want to demolish this because it's rotting, and they want to rebuild it. And the only thing that they might need to do, if you look at this picture, let me just shrink it down just a little bit so you can see, may need an additional sonotube right here. And that's the only earth moving work that they're doing. They have this lovely patio. I can't see, why this would need to have, not be a use permitted as of right, maintenance and enjoyment of residential home. But they need, since I don't have the authority under the current regulations to approve a use permitted as of right, maintenance and enjoyment of residential home, I have to bring it to you. And they filed this today. And I knew that I was coming to the meeting, so I thought they were going to be unavailable next month. So I thought it would be best if I brought it to you so that you could render a decision as to if you had any, that this would be a use permitted as of right. And I will go back to the application where they said, remove the existing deck and stairs, replace the deck with a new deck and stairs that will be up to current code, because the current deck is not up to code. There would be no earth movement proposed except for possible need for a new sonotube. So with that,
Okay.
I ask you what your opinion is and ask for an approval for this application, for a
All right.
ruling, for this ruling.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, this is just requires a vote by the commission to allow this to proceed. It seems to be, usual and customary maintenance of the premises as you've outlined, and they've detailed what they plan to do, which is, maintain the property, which is what you want, what you should be doing, right, to maintain your property. So, commissioners, do we have a motion to move forward with this, approve this application as a use as of right?
It's Commissioner Chapin. I'll make the
Chapin.
motion.
Okay, Commissioner
yeah.
Chapin makes a motion.
The
Or the
application number,
ruling.
I'm
That's
sorry,
a
what?
declaratory ruling, and it goes through that way, but we're just saying we're okay with it.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
I'm sorry, if I'm supposed to be talking, I can't hear anything. My dogs just came in. So am I,
Okay.
so are we making a motion to allow the declaratory ruling
Right.
DEC 23019 or
17.
17? So, yes,
Okay. So are there any, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed? All right, there is no opposition. The matter of right, use as a matter of right, or the repairs as a matter of right, as outlined by our wetlands agent, is can proceed. This is what we would hope citizens do to maintain their property. So please press on. Marla, I think, have you already released your? Okay, you've released it, haven't you? Okay, let me just go up here and get this. Here. All right. I'm back to my. Those are the ones after
Correct.
extensions, changes, F.
None.
Violations. Okay, here we are. Notice of permit violation VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mark Bear 1227, Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10. Grades not as authorized. And modified plan approved by the Commission on February 9th, 2021. And do we have a status on this matter?
There's been no change in the status. I haven't yet been able to touch base with Mr. Bear or his, the man who is building the house, which was Brian Meehan. But I will do that in the next couple of weeks to find out. The property still is up for sale, as well as other property that Mr. Bear owns on the other side of the Hagers. So I need to find out where the status is. It's still not finished. The work on the site, the earthwork is not finished. So they're not ready to do an as-built drawing.
Okay.
But I will touch base and let you know at the next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for our wetlands agent on this? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. This is, if I got the wrong one.
No, you have it correct.
Yeah, notice of violation VIOL 23013, Wojciech Sutka 1574 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 55, Block 65, Lot 14. Grading work exceeding scope of work authorized by permit IWA 21028 issued on 5/22/23. Status.
I'd like to screen share again, if you could,
Sure.
because I got another drawing.
It threw me off because my notes, the issued agenda and your slide deck have different words here.
Oh,
It says notice of permit violation. There's the other dropped the word.
it should say permit violation. Yeah, it should be, because that was a
Okay.
permit he got issued originally.
That's why I kept,
It
I said,
is-
wait a minute, I'm on the wrong one. I thought for a
No, no,
minute.
you're on the correct one.
Okay.
So if you could screen share, we go through
You're-
that again.
Oh, what do you need? You're going to share your screen?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead. You're ready. Go ahead. Hit the green, the bottom center of your screen. There should be, there you go.
so I received a plan from J&D. Now you recall that the permit site is located down here where can you see it? Oh,
Yes.
okay. So this was the building that he was authorized. He was authorized to build a driveway. He built the stormwater basin here, and his access to the street would be here. But he'd already started doing some work up in here. And there was a question about seepage coming from the dam and going into the site into a pipe. And they've mapped the pipe. J&D's been out there and taken a look at what this system actually is doing. And so I couldn't really contact the Dudley Wetlands. They have a consultant who does their wetland stuff. And I needed to have some kind of drawing to explain what the issues were. So I now have the contacting Dudley and sending that information, because this work that's up here is in Dudley. The work down here is in Connecticut. So whatever he's going to do to fix this is going to have to come in as a new application, and it's going to have to be coordinated with Dudley Wetlands, because the drainage pipe that we all saw that had have a heart over the entranceway.
I remember it. Yes.
Yeah, that's in Massachusetts. So I got an email from, let's Spicer Guess in a minute.
It was a very cold day. I remember we met Mr. Mallow that day.
Yes. So what he wrote was, and I don't think I have that as, he wrote, they've done a lot of work in and around the proposed building. That's, I get too many mice here. Okay, so he said that they did a lot of work around the proposed building. However, they hit some ledge that will need to be blasted. There's a narrow strip of ledge there, and the top is around elevation 646, and the bottom is elevation, 464, and the bottom is 454. The proposed grade of the building is 453, so they need to blast around 10 feet of ledge here to accomplish the proper grades. They're going back to look at rotating the proposed building 90 degrees and pick it up slightly. If they do that, they'll have to come in for a plan modification. North of the approved project, behind the existing buildings and near the dam, they've been storing and surplusing materials from their excavation. That's where they got cited for the violation, because they were within 100 feet of Perry Pond and the wetlands associated with Perry Pond. He said about 50 feet north of the dam in Massachusetts, he's talking about up here where my cursor is, there's an area where water is bleeding out of the ground. I cannot find any outlet structure nearby. A small amount of water is flowing through the ground and popping out on the surface. This flow is not near the dam structure, and the ground there looks pretty undisturbed and natural. The runoff wants to flow eastward towards the driveways and the buildings, and there's an existing drainage pipe to capture the water and direct it south. That's what this thing is here. That's the pipe carrying the water to the south. However, this pipe is very close to the buildings and it should be repaired and upgraded. We are proposing to install a new drainage pipe that will head due south, closer to the pond, and direct this water into an existing wetland area. I'm sending you yet another PDF with some color coded added to show the proposed drainage. Overall, this should be a good change, and we're not sending more water towards the proposed building or the road. We're just basically taking a more direct route. That's going to need a new application because that's a water course that they have in their pipes. He said, overall, the site looks good, especially considering how wet the site is and how much rain we've had this summer. I did not observe any significant erosion. The stormwater basin has been constructed and appears to be functioning as intended. Silt fence has been installed as necessary. And he could not be here tonight, so he asked me to give you his comments on this. So right now it's in the status of this is we have to contact Dudley. They got to come up with a plan as to what they actually want to do with that pipe, how to replace it, and how they ultimately want the site north of the proposed building to what the grades, this area here, what the grades ultimately are going to be. And so that's to be, stay tuned. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Marla. Any questions for Marla regarding that, the activity and violation? All right, moving on, hearing none. Let me just resume the PowerPoint here. All right, we have permit WAA 22033, Spicer Gas Inc., 299, formerly 0 Reardon Road, Assessors Map 65, Block 101, Lot 6. Letter sent on failing erosion and sediment controls and need for stormwater basin construction schedule.
If you recall, this site is the one across the street from the Thompson Business Park self-storage facility that you just authorized a month or so ago. This is
Right.
the one they were going to have the tanks, 2 tanks. Dan and I had gone out there, and as a response to finding inadequately controlled, inadequately installed silt fencing, it wasn't towed in, and there was sediment that could be running underneath it and going into the conservation easement area into the wetlands. So in response to I sent a copy to J&D electronically, and I got a response from Daniel Blanchette, and you have that on page 46 of the Zoom documents. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. I was on the site today and also observed the silt fence was not properly installed properly. Luckily, the erosion I observed under the silt fence was very minor, and the eroded sediment did not travel far. Due to the sandy soils and flat crushed stone surfaces, there's very little runoff from the site. Even after the extremely wet summer we've had, the sediment that eroded under the silt fence traveled only about 2 feet before it stopped. I do not think it entered the wetlands. Our surveyors staked out the silt fence line a while ago after the trees were cut. The silt fence should be about 3.5 feet from the edge of the wetlands and conservation easement. After discussing this with Bill, I believe he's talking about, I don't know who Bill is, because I was dealing with John Holstein. We feel that the quickest solution will be to create a wood chip berm along the silt fence. That's kind of coving in the silt fence. That would be an acceptable use to act as a secondary erosion control to prevent additional sediment from traveling under the silt fence. There's already a significant stockpile of wood chips from the site where the trees were cleared. Bill has contacted someone to create this wood chip berm, and I understand it'll be installed early next week. I will ask Bill to confirm to us when it is in place. This will be a good short-term solution to prevent any additional erosion while the site work is being conducted. I agree the sediment basin should be installed in the near future. Bill will be speaking to his excavator later today to see when he is available to do this work. We will provide you with a schedule to construct the basin as soon as possible. I will personally stake out the swale and basin in a few days to make sure it is constructed in the right location and elevation. My office did pick up the conservation area markers from Dan Malo a few months back. We are planning to install these once the majority of the site work is complete. And he's asked to let me know if he has any further concerns. He didn't, subsequent to that, he sent me an email late in the afternoon today, and he said, oh, I forgot to mention, I was out at Spicer Gas today. I staked out the drainage basin and spoke with a contractor. He's planning on starting in about 2 weeks. It sounds like the site work should be pretty much wrapped up in about 4 to 6 weeks. I also added a few stakes along the conservation easement just to make sure they avoid that area. I asked Bill Cummings to send you a more definitive schedule once it's available. So that is the status update on Spicer Gas.
Thank you, Marla. Any questions for Marla on this, commissioners? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Other business, status of draft Thompson flood damage prevention ordinance. See, there's been a lot of activity on this. So what do you have?
Okay, so originally I got involved working with Diane Ivkovic back years ago with the old ordinance, the one in 1988, when we first thought that we might want to change the appeal agency from the Conservation Commission to the Inland Wetlands Commission. So I was well aware of the language that was in the ordinance. And I started working with the language that was in the old ordinance with Tira Penkisik, the town planner, the director of economic development, and she ended up putting in edits, and I ended up putting up edits, and it got quite confusing. Then I realized this ordinance has already been put into the general code, the code of ordinances, and I really should have been working with that language. So working with Tira and Renee Waldron, I was able to get a copy of the actual language in a Word document from general code. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure that everybody understood is that the ordinance actually is mirrored. Some of the language in the ordinance or the requirements in the ordinance are mirrored in the Connecticut general statutes. And I think this was done to assist FEMA in making sure that whatever ordinances got passed in Connecticut all were consistent to some extent to what FEMA standards were. So on page 49 of the Zoom document, you can see the actual language for what was requiring this ordinance to be created. It says, whenever a municipality pursuant to the National Flood Insurance Program, 44 CFR Part 59 et sequa, is required to revise its zoning regulations or any other ordinance regulating a proposed building, structure, development, or use in the floodplain, the revision shall provide for restrictions for flood storage and conveyance of waters for floodplains that are not tidally influenced as follows. And there are some significant changes in the requirements. As I explained to the Board of Selectmen a couple of days ago, last week, the current standards say you have a floodplain, 100-year floodplain, and inside that floodplain, you maybe have designated a floodway. The floodway, take the floodway out of the 100-year floodplain and you're left with the flood fringe. FEMA said you could fill up the flood fringe. That was okay, but you couldn't touch the floodway. They're not saying that anymore. They're saying that you touch that 100-year floodplain, regardless, you have to provide compensated storage. You still can't touch the floodway, but without going through all kinds of hoops to get the maps changed. But you have to compensate for it. So that is going to complicate some of the things that I have to put into the inland wetlands regulations down the road, because I want to make sure that if the Inland Wetlands Commission is the appeal agency, then the standards that the Inland Wetlands Agency has in its regulations mirror what FEMA requires, so that they back each other up. What you'll see starting on page 50. So I provided to Amy and Tira three documents. One document was a PDF of what I would call the black line, which is what the final language would be if it was approved at a town meeting. Then I provided also a red line version. What you have here is the red line version, because what's been posted on the town's website is the black line version. The red line version takes the language from the town's code, the general code, the one that's posted online, and it takes whatever edits were requested by Diane Ivkovic and other suggested changes that I asked for, and Diane either approved or usually what we said. So you'll see as you go down through it, there's a lot of changes, a ton of additional definitions. And some of the changes there are deletions. The deletions are strikeout in red and the additions are underlined in red. So this is so that you can see where all the changes actually were from the original ordinance. Now, one thing I found when I went into the code, surprise, surprise, if you go down to, George, go down to page 65 of the ordinance, of the Zoom documents.
Right.
So you'll see that what's in the general code already is the Inland Wetlands Commission. And I don't understand how that happened, because the original ordinance that was the 1988 ordinance had the Conservation Commission. So you don't see any change here because what's in the general code already says the Inland Wetlands Commission. So when I was looking at it, I go, gee, that's kind of odd. Are there any other changes? Well, I did find on page 55, and I'm not sure how this happened, because I could understand somebody saying, oh, well, they were going to do it anyway, so we'll just put it in. If you go to page 55 and look at the definition of structure. Now, the what is crossed out was not what was in the 1988 ordinance. Somebody put that language, anything that is constructed or erected in the use of which requires permanent attachment to the ground or water areas, et cetera, et cetera. That was not in the original ordinance. So I put back in what was the original ordinance because that's what Diane Ivkovic reviewed. And so I don't know how these changes came about. I haven't yet been able to figure out who might have made the changes. But I can't explain it at this point in time. But then when I went down, I noticed that there was a fee. And if you go to page 69, 69 is the fee structure that is established for ordinances that don't have a fee in them. And this ordinance sets a fee, originally had a fee of $20. And the decision was to take the $20 out. And if you hold on a second, I'll tell you what page it was in. I should have. On page 58 of the Zoom records, an application fee shall be charged as set by the Board of Selectmen pursuant to section 33-4-1, Appendix 1, Schedule Fee and Fines. So that was, they didn't want to have it as a set fee in the ordinance because you can't change it. So so I went to check the appendix, and that's the appendix that you find on page 69 of the Zoom documents. And that's where I found there was no fee established. So I have advised Amy and Tara that on page 69, you see at the bottom, flood damage prevention ordinance. It has no fee established. It's blank. It's empty. It does have a fine identified. So then because I had that up, I was looking around, and then lo and behold, on page 70 of the Zoom documents, I found that someone had put in a fee for the Inland Wetlands Commission, which is inappropriate because the Inland Wetlands fee is variable depending upon whether or not you have a wetlands agent approval permit, which is $110, but a conceptual subdivision has a scaled fee depending on how many lots you have. And so it was inappropriate to be in this appendix, but this can be changed by the Board of Selectmen. And I have asked that this be removed, the Inland Wetlands fee be removed from this appendix because the fee is set by regulation. The same way zoning applications and subdivision application fees are set by their own regulations. So I'm expecting that will be changed down the road because technically it's the regulations that are in control, not the Board of Selectmen on that. So there are several issues that need to be addressed, but right now, hopefully they can all be addressed. I did find a third issue because when I started seeing what inland wetlands here, I actually searched on inland wetlands through the entire code. And I found the ordinance for the Inland Wetlands Commission, somehow the alternates got dropped off from the general code. The original ordinance changed it from 7 members to 5 with 2 alternates. And somehow the language for the 2 alternates got deleted or removed, wasn't included. But I had the minutes from the town meeting, as well as the language that was in the ordinance that was presented at the town meeting. And Amy contacted the town attorney, and the town attorney said is whatever it was that went through the town meeting originally. And so they changed it in the code, in the general code. So it's now back to the language that was originally authorized. So the commission doesn't have to worry about that. If you go to the general code now and you look up inland wetlands, which is, can't remember which chapter it is. in the code, in the general code, I think it's like 56 or something like that, you will see that the ordinance references 5 regular members and 2 alternates. So that issue has been corrected. And that just leaves this one in the fee schedule to be corrected. And then the ordinance, the flood damage prevention ordinance, has to get approved through town meeting. And I hope that there's no problem with that, because that could represent a significant problem to the town. That's all I have on the ordinance.
Commissioner Overt, I see you have a question.
Yes, the last point that we talked about.
You might want to get closer to your mic. You're a little,
Yeah, I'm sorry. On the last note that you just mentioned on the fee, since we're looking at a red line addition, shouldn't that be struck out with a note underneath it, underlined, that says it's set by regulation?
No, this is in this appendix is in the control of the Board of Selectmen. So it's the Board of Selectmen have to take action to take that out. We can't, it's not done by town meeting. The flood damage prevention ordinance is revised through a town meeting, but the appendix is done by an action by the Board of Selectmen. Okay.
somewhere in the metadata, the actual changes are reflected in the individual that made it. If we were forensic, if we we're actually going to take action here, the computer remembers every single thing that's done on these things.
Well, I just don't know what other changes might have occurred, you know, because there's been a lot of things with the, so for example, you have the subdivision regulations now online, and you have the zoning regulations now online. Now, those all went to public hearing, they were adopted. Now, whether the language that's in the general code is the same language that got approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, I don't know, because I'm seeing some changes that are coming up in the general code that I can't explain.
Yeah.
It's very concerning, and it doesn't bode well for the current administration, or it just, this is concerning.
Yeah.
Very concerning. And I'm more than a little bit angry that changes are being made that had no basis to be made.
Yeah.
I agree with Diane, and I will point out, though, to George's comment about the computer remembers everything. But if I saved this in Word and gave it a slightly different name and made changes, I could do that. And there should be no way that anybody could change a controlled document. But of course, somebody did. And without knowing what computer it was done on, or what year, there's only so much that the provenance on the Microsoft Word program will tell me.
This is Amy St. Ange. I'd really like to speak on this. There was nothing. This is being pulled from general code. This wasn't an intentional change, and it wasn't done by my administration. So let's just get that clear from go.
Yeah, let's get that clear, shall we?
Yes,
Let's get it clear.
Because it was not done by my administration. As we were going through the process of general code, certain things slipped up. To make the accusation that it was done on purpose is just false.
I don't think I ever said it was done on purpose. I said it was very concerning, and it is very concerning.
Because of the inland wetlands fee that you're talking about?
No, because of the redlining changes, because of the fee, because of all these things that have come up that are not supposed to have been changed. And nobody can trace back to where they were changed.
The FEMA flood ordinance was being revised with the help of Connecticut Deep. So.
May I clarify what I was trying to say?
Commissioner Overt, yes, your chair recognizes Commissioner Overt.
As quickly as possible. I'm not suggesting that anybody deliberately went in and said, hey, I'm going to be the judge and the lawyer today and make changes. I do think that over the years, and it could be a number of years, different people looking at documents, not all of them have the same rate of training on understanding of change to documents. And it doesn't take much for somebody to take a draft copy and file it in as a completed copy. I don't think that anything was maliciously done, but I do think that there was some carelessness. And what
Right,
administration, I don't know.
exactly. And thank you, Charlie, because it could have been 4, 5, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. If we're talking about an ordinance that was created in 88, and the process, which is why we went to general code under my administration, why we hired general code was so that there would be professionalism. So there would be proper tracking. Prior to that, it was done by one staff member on Word documents, and there was errors and there were issues with it, which is why we hired general code.
Did the people at General Code spot the same things that Marla did?
They haven't seen the revised FEMA.
Okay.
So they received the list of code of ordinances from Donna Hall in the building office because she was the secretary for the ordinance review committee. So she kept track of the ordinances. So, and that's what general code had to work with, was those Word documents.
Well, we've got a head start then because of the things that Marla found, and I hope that we can rectify everything and smooth it all out.
Yep.
We're working at it, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
an important consideration. Yeah, mistakes get made, but we're working at correcting them.
Correct.
And okay, thank you, Commissioner Obert, and I will observe for myself that redlining is important. It's part of a transactional activity, especially in Word documents, and we transcribe them. And it's something that's not innate. It's something that has to be learned, and I think it's a relatively new behavior for many folks in different capacities and new roles. And it's you can certainly make an error, but obviously, if we're looking at it, we expect to see changes, and if they're not noted, or if you compare it to an older document, that's always a concern. Now, not to say it was, as pointed out, intentional, but it's something that we need to reconcile and make sure that what we intend to change is changed, what's been changed is reflected, and what isn't changed remains the same. So, thank you, Marla, for that summary. Any further discussion on this issue of code? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Anticipated staff changes.
So I've, Marla Betts speaking, I've spoken to each of the commissioners indicating that we are trying to figure out an exit strategy for me. Originally, I told you that there would be some time this fiscal year that I would be leaving. That was all based upon what if I could get critical work done. I needed to get the regulations, the revisions to the regulations. We've had discussions about changing the procedures from getting rid of the conceptual subdivision approval and turning it into individual permits for subdivisions, and how that would work. We also talked about fee schedules and how those might be generated. I've shared with you, we had a special meeting where I shared with you some of the evaluations that I did on fees so that we could come up with a schedule. That all has to get worked into the current regulations. It's a pretty complicated thing. And the problem that I've had is because I've had all these applications that I have to process in the 15 hours a week, I just couldn't seem to get to it. Other stuff, more time required stuff got in the way. So one of the suggestions is to combine the position of conservation officer and wetlands agent. To do that, then I would have to leave town service, but I wanted to get the regulations in proper order and finish the records disposal activities that I had started. And in the process, I also needed to get some of the protocols and operating procedures transferred over to Dan. So Dan was the person that I'd always thought when he first came in with the experience that he had, given my understanding that there's not many people out there that can do wetlands agent work and do it really competently. Dan, to me, seemed like a great candidate, but he couldn't survive on 20 hours a week, which is what he gets as conservation officer. And so if I left, he could assume the hours that I had, or at least some of the hours that I had, and I could then work as an exit strategy by, under a personal services contract, develop the regulations to their form that would then I'd bring to the Inland Wetlands Commission for massaging till it gets to the final form that you feel comfortable with. And right now that process is being developed. I don't yet have a personal services contract to review, but hopefully that will be soon. My goal is to try to get whatever transfer is of services for me out of the office and into personal services contract by the time I go on normally go on vacation in mid-September. That's the goal. And so right now I'm waiting to receive a draft contract from the town so that we can get the details out and the scope of work. Now, what I envision, that's why I asked Dan to be here today. I've already started walking through some of the protocols and processes that I follow, just so that he understands when he walks fully into the job completely, that he will have an understanding of the procedures. He may change some of those procedures once he gets comfortable with it and decides, yeah, it probably should be changed. But until then, I'm still focused. I can't focus on the regulations. Hoping I could focus on records disposal done before I exit, but who knows if I will do that. Winter time is a slow time for work by the Wetlands Commission. And so that's ideally the time to do the regulations. But since I think it's important to get this thing going in that direction, I was agreeable. I was approached by the Selectman's office and Tara to try to work out an exit strategy that was profitable for everyone. So that's where we stand now. What I want to know from you is how much interaction do you want me involved in getting those regs finalized after a public hearing? So as you've seen with the subdivision regulations and the zoning regulations, what Tara would do is she had drafts. She would bring it in a special meeting to the commission. Commission would go over particular sections, ask for edits to go in, and to ultimately come up with a final version that could be agreed upon by the commission, and then go to public hearing. So then once the public hearing was through and public comment was through, then go and finalize the hearing. So my thought is I could develop the draft with all these changes in it. That would be a deliverable, and then meet with the commission and provide assistance to the commission to get it to the point where it's at a final stage. Even perhaps providing testimony at a public hearing should the commission feel that's needed. That would all come under as a separate hourly rate. So is there any jobs, any activities that you feel might be necessary for me to cover into this personal services contract? Because it's like I'd be working as a consultant to you.
That's a great question. It's a lot there. Maybe you can put it in one sentence for us.
What do you want me to, what services do you want me to provide for you as I exit from this job?
All right, good. Commissioners, any thoughts on this? Comments? Commissioner Obert?
Yes. I think that it's in the best interest of our commission and of the town to continue to work with Marla, who has this background, until the process is completed, for the regulations first, so that our ordinances are all lined up with state and natural and national requirements. But also the records need to be finalized. She and I had a conversation, talked about a neighboring town where somebody threw away records that were legal for them to throw them away, but they still have valuable information. And if we're going to have a transition to a new enforcement agent, then I think we need to make sure that nothing that's valuable got thrown away and nothing that's dead weight is still there.
Okay.
Those are two things that I believe that she's qualified to do and should be able to complete in a timely enough fashion.
Commissioner Chapin or Commissioner Morano? Well, well, thinking about that, I think I'd echo what Charlie, Commissioner Obert said, that we want continuity and we want to memorialize what's there. You know, we think all too often we take for granted what is in front of us, and unfortunately, when you look back, something happens and there's a matter that arises in the future that's dependent upon decisions that were made in the past, and it's important to have those documents accessible and clear. So those are key. So how you implement that, I guess, is the biggest challenge, and how many hours, if that would be. Perhaps that's not something for us to decide today. That's something you need to recommend, I think, Marla, because you have better, grasp of the magnitude of the workload, and perhaps something to talk with Dan as well. You know, it's sort of like what, because you guys can probably better assess it, and then come to us with a recommendation. Say, I recommend X to do Y amount of work. That would be my suggestion in response to your question.
So right now, what I'm trying to figure out, I've got an estimation in my mind of what the values are and what the work that needs to be done, the amount of time that might need to be done. I just have to identify the specific job, what would I want to say, job duties.
Scope.
What would I be charging against the hourly rate? If I have a section of hourly rate, that's what I'm asking. What is the scope of what you were looking for? I envisioned it providing assistance for the regulations and for the hearing that would be needed, and any iterations, changes that you want to have based upon what I give you initially.
Right.
But I didn't know if there was anything else that you wanted to have in there. So if records disposal is part of that hourly thing, then that would have to be put into the listing of duties that could be qualified under an hourly rate.
What I'd like to see would be a written recommendation to the commission to say to approve. In other words, give us something we can approve, but an open-ended any and all or none kind of comments are difficult to quantify, never mind approve. But if you could come up with a specific scope with a specific deliverables in a time frame and put it in writing and say, this is what I'd like to do, then we can assess it, right? We as a commission can look at it and say, yes, we agree with it, or we can modify it or maybe expand it. So if you could do that, I think that'd be productive and time, to be efficient with time. And also perhaps you could collaborate with Dan as to, the extent that he may want to utilize needed service. Then we have to recommend it to the powers that be to approve it. I mean, we've got our level of authority, but the things, if it's a money issue, then is it within the existing budget, or is it going to fall within the scope of your negotiations? But I think we need something that's definite, that has clear scope, clear cost associated with it, and a timeline. So if you could put those in writing and provide it to us, that would be.
All right. So given the length of time that I have to work on this, what I would do is the contract is in the control of the selectman's office and the HR person. So what I can do is once I find out what they have envisioned as to what they think the duties should be, and then I will come see if there's anything I need to fill in after that. Then I will send to you the list of what I expect will be covered. And then you can send back to me what you think. And this would not be done at a meeting. It would be done via email. What you think, what changes I should have. And then I will negotiate my personal services contract with the administration. I don't think it's appropriate for the Inland Wetlands Commission to negotiate that contract. I'm just seeking your input, not to do the actual approvals or say, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't.
Sure. Well, we touched on some general concept elements here, but I think it's incumbent upon yourself to be specific and something that's identifiable, quantifiable, and measurable. Mm-hmm. So if you could do that, that'd be appreciated.
Yep.
All right.
Getting close to that. All right.
Great. Any other points, Commissioner Obert, or are you just?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. we know that Amy St. Ange is listening, and I hadn't heard anybody say that those two tasks that I outlined were not important. So I would suggest that that be the nucleus of what you
Right.
go back to the Board of Selectmen and say, these are things that the commission would like to see me accomplish so that there's a smooth transition.
Right. Put
I
it,
don't
put it
know
away.
the total number
Give us
of
something we can say
hours.
yes to, as I
Those are
always say to people.
goals.
Right. Aspirational. You gotta be, you know, some of these things are definite or not, but I always, with people that work with me, I say, look, give me something I can say yes to, right? Don't make me figure it out for you. You know better than I, but make it so it makes sense and I can approve it and I can sell it. So if you would, that'd be great. All right. Thank you, Marla, for that. Staff changes. If Melissa's more, we can move on to the next item.
Mhm.
All right.
Yes.
So we have other business, maintenance of IWC meeting records.
So there was a question raised to me by a commissioner. Is there some reason why the Inland Wetlands Commission meetings are not posted on YouTube? And so here's the answer to that question on page 73. So the wetlands recordings are maintained in the wetlands office, the Zoom meetings, as well as the ones that predate that,
Right.
that were on digital. So the wetlands office was never given access to YouTube nor instructed to do so, to post things. It's unknown if YouTube recordings are subject to deletion without proper authorization by FOIA. Zoom recordings are in the control of the wetlands Zoom meetings are in the control of the Selectman's Office Zoom account, the first Selectman's Zoom account. The IWC meetings recorded on Zoom, they're recorded on Zoom. The minutes contain a link and a passcode to the Zoom link for public viewing. All those links, I checked them. They're all still valid.
Okay.
Amy has kept all of the Zoom recordings. The Inland Wetlands Commission recording secretary, Gloria, has downloaded every Zoom recording on a thumb drive, just in case the recordings are deleted from the Zoom account. There may come a time when Amy has a limit to the amount of recordings that she can store. I don't know if she does or doesn't, but we'll have a recording for FOIA purposes
Right.
on a thumb drive. The wetlands portion of the network drive contains the recordings of meetings that preceded the Zoom meetings, and many of those were digital. Many of those were burnt onto CDs to keep for FOIA purposes. And unless authorized for records disposal, the recordings are available to the public on request.
Great.
So
Thank you for that summary. Commissioners, I guess you know where the documents are. Thank you for clarifying that. I asked this question to see where we have it. Again, it's it's the public record. It's to memorialize the decisions that were made, and in the fullness of time, you'll find that these things can become invaluable. I won't bore you with why, but great, thank you. On to the next item. Unless there's questions. Hear none. Citizens' comments. I'm sorry, what?
No, I was just saying, I thought you were at citizens' comments. I
no, I'm
see Jason Jazerski on the Zoom meeting, and I don't know if he heard that Charlie Aubert and I were going to come and walk the driveway. You need to
I'm muted. Okay, I see. The chair recognizes under citizens' comments on agenda items. Mr. Jazerski, you can comment. We recognize this is not a Q&A, all right? So if you have comments, please, offer them. If that's clear. How's your mic? We can't hear you yet. Go ahead.
Mr. Tursky, I just had a question on my application.
Well,
yeah, I'll contact you tomorrow. Okay.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a comments only section, but if I would encourage any citizens that have questions, you can make a comment. And thank you for that comment. We understand you want to find the status of your application. And we'll ask the Inland Wetlands agent to update you tomorrow morning or sooner if possible. Thank you for the question. Any other citizens' comments on the agenda items? All right, it's a long night. It's an hour and a half almost. Moving on to the next item. Budget and expenditures and wetlands agent report. Budget expenditures. Where do we stand?
Okay, Commissioner Chapin, we have a not final year to date from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 with an available budget of $1,192.92, having expended 95.7% of the budget. And then we have a July 1st, 2023 through July 30th, 2023, where we have an available budget of $26,359.49, and we have used 5.8% of our current budget.
Thank you very much. Any
You're welcome.
questions?
Just a comment, George.
What's that?
So the first report that Diane gave was the money that got left on the table that was unexpended. And I was told by Paula LeBlanc in the finance office that they do not have a final report until she said it won't be available for about another month when everything else is cleared off
Right.
the tables. So that's why it's not final, but the commission left a little over $1,000 unexpended funds from last year.
Should have had more parties. At that Christmas party we didn't have. All right, a holiday party, I should say. Thank you. All right, if there's no other comments on the budget, let's move on to Wetlands Agent Report.
Okay, under updates, I'm now working on the transfer of duties from myself to Dan Malo, and this takes time to walk him through the processes. It's because what I show him and then he walks it through and I watch him do it. I finished drafting and reviewing the revisions to the flood damage prevention ordinance, which you just saw. I still haven't made any progress on the pre-1990 file destruction. With respect to inspections and follow-ups actions, I still haven't gotten anything from 23 Lapierre Road. That was that barn that was built without a building permit and without any wetlands agent approval. And I should have received an application by now, so I will work with Dan on developing further correspondence. Regarding Jersey Lane Cross Culvert on July 31st of a week or so ago, I met with on-site Works Director Joe Tacky and Dan Malo, and we discussed the work that Joe wants to do to stabilize the erosion at the culvert. As you recall, last month, I screen shared with you photographs of the failure at culvert. He's in the middle of road paving now, but will submit a sketch of what he'd like to do. Request for a ruling from the Inland Wetlands Commission will be generated and brought before the Inland Wetlands Commission for its consideration as a non-regulated use, conservation of soil and water. There were only 4 building permits that I reviewed. I don't know what happened, and I don't have anything miscellaneous to report. And as far as the invoices go, it seems as though something has happened in Stonebridge Press. It used to be legal notices that would cost me $44.10 are now costing me $14.10, and I don't understand the reason why. So I need to investigate that. But Stonebridge Press was taken over by Salmon Press, and it may be that the person that's calculating the fee, the costs, may be doing it in a different way, because it was explained to me a year or two ago when we had problems with the costs.
It sounds like AI at work.
Maybe. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for our agent regarding the report? All right, I encourage you to work closely with Dan on these issues, as I'm sure you will. All right, on to the next item. We've got correspondence, there are none, and signing of Mylars. Looks like I've got to sign some Mylars here.
Yes, so I have checked, this came as under declaratory ruling by Fran Morano a couple months ago. And
Right.
she supplied 4 sheets, and it was determined that the commission didn't have any jurisdiction, didn't need a permit from the commission, that it was not a regulated activity, and the Planning and Zoning Commission was notified of that. Fran then got approval for 2-lot subdivision, and the Planning and Zoning Commission has signed off on the Mylars already, because their meeting came before ours. And Fran has delivered the Mylars to the office. I have checked the Mylars. They are the exact same drawings as what the commission took a look at under the declaratory ruling for the 2-lot subdivision. So there's no reason why they can't be signed off.
Great, okay. Thank you for that update. Next item, commissioner comments. Commissioner Obert, any comments? Right, you have to unmute your speaker there.
Yes, I'm aware of that. It's just that I've got 2 screens, and for some reason, the cursor runs backwards.
Oh, I can, no, that's, yeah, you
I
set it
know
up
it's
at the
something in
bottom.
its settings, but I've
Yeah.
already said it basically. It's rare when a group like ours has an opportunity to transition smoothly. Far too often, there's an election, there's a turnover, there's a lot of reasons why we have a unique opportunity. And I think we've got the talent to do it. And I certainly have experience that would be useful as a volunteer. It's not my job, but I can review things and help. And I hope that the Board of Selectmen understands that this same thing. We're in a precarious situation, and we need talent to move forward.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Commissioner Obert. Commissioner Chapin, any comments or
Negative.
nothing? Is Commissioner Morano, did we lose her? Perhaps. Sorry. In any case, thank you. I want to thank Miles for all her hard work and putting these together. I don't know. It's always tough, Dan, to walk in the shoes of someone that with extensive experience, although it could be instructive, I guess, and help set your own path. We're looking forward to having you work with us as a smooth transition. And with that, I have nothing else to say. So I do look for a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Ober, I see a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Everybody.
None. Okay, the commission's adjourned at 8:33 p.m. We can stop the recording and we can